The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find. The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style.
Well, welcome to the Big H Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Hayes, and today I have another Mike Ellicott.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Got you after school today before your futsal workout. Mike here is a 7th grade Merton Williams general health teacher. He stepped down from the high school to do that. And even more so, he's known as our boys varsity head soccer coach. Mike, before we get into your coaching, tell me a little bit about your day today and what it encapsulated at Merton Williams Middle School.
Today was a little bit of a different day because my students were doing their CPR and AED certification. So I actually flipped classes with one of our other health teachers who's certified to kind of test the kids out on those skills. So I had a really unique day of just going and being a different teacher. It was still health, but it was really neat to go in and see a lot of kids that I've seen in the hallways and even some of our soccer players. So I got to kind of bounce into Miss Drexler's classroom and be Miss Drexler today, and it was subbing in a weird way, but it was a fun experience, and I think it was a nice little way to connect with some of the kids that you see in the hallway and see out and about and around the building, and it was nice. It was cool. And then I just popped over to the high school and met with one of our juniors. We're kind of getting to that point now where we're going to name our captain soon, and we're kind of whittling down that process a little bit. So connecting with a couple of those guys that are going to be eligible for that. And then futsal tonight, which is always a fun time in Hilton on Thursday night down at the Village. So, yeah, a little indoor soccer, you can't beat it. We love it.
So you mentioned that the kids were taking CPR AED. Is that new? I kind of like that idea of the kids learning that too.
I think in the last 5 or 6 years now, the district has actually paid for every 7th grader to take the course. They take it in health class. They go through first aid, CPR, AED training, very much like how we do as coaches. They sit the test. There's a written test. There's a practical test. It's pretty rigorous. They have to show that they can do the correct chest compressions, whether it's on an adult or a child or an infant. And then you go through a whole battery of tests of things like how to deal if someone's choking and someone's bleeding, concussions. So they were working up for that today. They were a little wound up about it. They were excited to show off their skills to Mrs. Drexler. And so far, so good. Everyone's done a great job. And after break, we do the final part of the course. And then they come out of that part of our year with their first aid, CPR, and AED training. So they get a little card, and their names on it. They're all excited about that. So just a neat thing. I think the more kids know at that age, especially just being around the house and out and about in the community and being able to just jump in and feeling confident jumping in, putting themselves in challenging situations, but also have the skills and the knowledge of how to deal with it is a nice thing. I like that.
And you never know when you're going to need it, and you really never know there's not going to be an adult there, so you might need it. You also mentioned that you met with one junior or several juniors today?
I met with one today. We have a nice little short list of juniors and sophomores, and in the past we've done a pure voting system for captain. I want to change it up a little bit this year. Every now and then I get kind of the itch to do something a little different with what we do in our program. So I asked the guys to give me some ideas of who they wanted to see as their leaders next year and give me some reasoning behind it. So everybody kind of gave me 2 or 3 names for our returning players. And then I kind of tabulated those, went and met with about 8 or 9 guys and just pick their brains for a little bit. We just had a chat. I think some of them thought it was like a little interview, but it was nice to kind of see where their mindset was. And as you know, with coaching, it's really important to have leaders that you can lean on. Sometimes they wear a captain's armband, sometimes they don't. But having an array of different types of leaders is really handy with a varsity squad. So it was fun to hear some points of view. They're all great guys. I mean, if I could take on 9, I would. I think it might look funny going up to a coin toss with nine captains. But, you know, we typically end up with 3 or 4 guys that kind of stand out above the rest of the group. But, you know, we've got 5 or 6. I've got a tough decision. I promised them I would tell them before break, but I might have to ask for a little bit of an extension now. So it's been nice in the past just to do vote, because it's like, oh, yeah, Mike got the most votes. You're a captain. But I kind of, in a little bit of a reflection on my own way of doing things this year, I was like, well, I want to have a bit more of a say in who takes on those roles. It's very easy as a coach to say, well, these 3 guys got the top votes. Let's hand it off. You can't fight that. Sometimes it's difficult to make challenging decisions like that. But I think we had some exceptional captains this year. But I think the more I'm doing this and experiencing it as a coach, then the more I'm thinking about how everybody holds the group together. And it's not just relying on one captain to be the leader, but you got different styles. You got the guy that leads by example, or the guy that puts his arm around your shoulder when you're having a tough day, or gets in your face sometimes. It's good to have an array of different types of leadership, and I think we need that.
You already answered my next question. Futsal, you mentioned that. Explain to our viewers, some of them are not maybe as attuned to soccer as you are, of course. What is futsal, and what is what's the goal of doing it?
Futsal is indoor soccer. It's like a small-sided version of soccer, so we play like 4v4 or 5v5, and it's was really big in Brazil and Argentina, and then kind of came over to Europe and the rest of the world. It's not quite your gym soccer. It's a very skilled game, and it's a lot of quick pass movement. So you see the ball, pass the ball very quickly, and move into new space. The ball's actually a little different too. It's a bit smaller, and it's actually heavier. The idea behind that is that you keep it on the deck. You know, we like the ball moving around on the ground. It's not coming up into the air too often. It's a very, very technical game, and it's a game that, you know, when we invite grades 6 through 11. So anybody in the fall that will be 7 through 12 comes to our futsal nights throughout the winter. And as we do that, it's just a great opportunity to get all the guys together. The little 6th graders we don't know yet coming in and showing off their skills. And it's one of those games where, yeah, it can get a little physical, and our older guys are used to, they were the little guys not so long ago, so they're used to handling the little whippersnappers at their ankles, you know, and knowing how to deal with little kiddos that come flying in on you. But it's just a nice way to build a camaraderie across our program. But also, the game, at least in our opinion, in our program, is becoming very technical. This is a great way, if you can handle that ball in a very tight space with a bigger guy on top of you like this, it's very exposing. There's nowhere to hide. It's probably like a 3-on-3 basketball game. Kind of, you really can't disappear. In futsal, you're needed, you know, and it's great for our older guys. They take on a real nice leadership and teaching kind of approach. And for the little guys, it just really gives us a bit of a naughty head start. You know, we get to see, oh, this kid's actually pretty good, you know, and where they might fit in our program, and also a comfort level for those kids. They know me, they know Coach Mahar, they know Coach Caffarelli and Coach Duffy and Coach Moon. They're all turning up, and it just going into tryouts it's a little bit settling, you know, as a 7th grader coming into something new like that. You might not know a lot of people, but going to some of those, it builds that connection. It's important. We get, you know, not to boast, we get 60 plus kids at these events, and it's like, we don't really advertise too much, but it's like, we got 60 kids coming in, and the boys take it serious. We do goofy things. We have awards and prizes, and we have a trophy every week that they all want to win. We have a trophy that they don't want to win. It's the wooden spoon if you're the worst team. So it's become a real tradition in our program, and Thursday night futsal hopefully will be around forever. We love it.
It's great. I really like the camaraderie and the chemistry you build with the young kids. You mentioned 5 or 6 coaches. Go down the list of your coaches and explain a little bit about their contributions to the program.
Our program assistant is Brian Duffy. I'm kind of the odd one out in the group. I'll start with that. Coach Duffy, who's our program assistant, Coach Moon, who is one of our modified coaches, Coach Schreiber, who's one of our modified coaches. All three of them are Hilton grads. All three of them are put on the Hilton boys soccer jersey, and that's always great to be able to have those guys around. They're incredible Hilton guys. And then the other two gentlemen that are part of our coaching staff, Coach Scott Mahar and Coach Tony Caffarelli, are both Arcadia grads. And if you know soccer in our area, Arcadia was a hotbed for soccer players. And of course, not to age them, but they were around at the time where Arcadia was the team. And it was Scott Mahar, obviously, is a teacher in the district, and Tony lives in the district. He's the president of Hilton. His child goes to school in our district. I'm really fortunate to have guys that are very Hilton centric, invested coaches. And I mean, I am the odd one, but it's really interesting to have. And just this week, we were talking a little bit about how we just had our 10th season together. We've really not had a massive turnover of coaches. And some folks, we've had some successes, and people like to know, how are you successful? I'm very lucky to have those guys. And there's a lot of people that pay lip service and say that sort of thing about the coaching staff. But they're so invested in the program. No job's too small, no job's too big with them. And they all really, at least must be really faking it very well. They seem to like working with us. I shouldn't say for us, but with each other. They're very close as well, and that's what it's like being on a coaching staff. You want to be able to rely on each other if something's not quite right in your life, or you need a little bit of help with something, or you just want some advice. We're a very tight-knit group, and I think that really has been a huge part of our success. We've had very little turnover in our coaching staff. And for what it's worth, the soccer minds, we're all very much on the same page. And soccer's an interesting sport, and there's a lot of different opinions on the way the game should be played. But we for the most part, are really always singing from that same hymn sheet. So it's a nice thing.
Well, I think you mentioned twice turnover on that, and there's been very little, if any, turnover, and that continuity that you can keep.
It's so important because you obviously you can't control everything that happens, and especially when out of the guys that are involved in our program, Coach Duffy and Coach Caffarelli, the two guys that have real jobs. We laugh about it. They're the non-teachers in our group, but somehow both of them seem to finagle and work ways with their jobs to be able to give us the time that they need in the fall, and we need from them in the fall. And you're right. You get on this. There's a fun part of familiarity, but I think there's also an aspect of the way we work together that we're not afraid to challenge each other. And I think, and I hope that they would agree that I invite that a lot. I want people to challenge the way we do things. Are we happy with? I don't like settling. I don't like getting comfortable. I also don't like changing things for the sake of changing things. Once you find something that's working well, it's great to have that, but it's always good to hear everybody's opinion on things. And, my name might be on the door, but maybe I'm my best, the best asset for our program is the coaching staff that we have working. They're just great role models for our young men.
Wow. They're very nice to say about your guys. Now, as people can tell by your accent, you weren't born here. Talk to us a little bit about where you were born, mom and dad, and any siblings that you had. And
just know if you get Mr. Monfoletto, and I have to give him a shout out, he tells every student that I'm faking this. So I had to bring that up for Chris. So I'm from Manchester in England, which is in the north of England. We're a pretty big city. If you wanted to kind of compare it to an American city, we're very much the size of like Chicago and Boston. So big city. I'm definitely a city boy, but grew up there, moved to the States in 2003, I was 23 years old, so I just finished college and fell in love with an American girl who I still love today. So that's a good thing. And she was a really good reason to move here. Mom and dad are still home. I'm the only one that moved out of the city, so it's a bit strange that, even I have a very large extended family. I've got 20 some odd cousins on one side of the family and 20 odd on the other side, and
Wow.
many, still live in the city. My mom's the oldest of 5, and my dad's second youngest of 6, and it's like we were a big family. There's a few of us that have kind of branched out and moved away, but for the most part, the family and extended family have stayed very much close to home. I have 3 younger siblings. I've got 3 sisters. Becky's 5 years younger than me, and then I've got Sophie, who's 7 years younger than me, and then Amy, who's 9 years younger than me. It was fun growing up the oldest. I think the older folks, the oldest member of the family kind of gets the raw deal sometimes.
I agree.
If I wouldn't have had it any other way, especially having 3 sisters, I would rather be the oldest and somewhere in the middle or the bottom. So I definitely had both my parents were blue collar people. I had a huge opportunity to get old quick and help raise my younger siblings, and I loved every moment of that. That's not something I say in a way that kind of is a derogatory thing. I really enjoyed being part of their experiences as younger kids. But yeah, they're all still back in England and all have their own lives and families, and we get to see each other once a year, which is really nice. So we either go there or they'll come here. So it's their turn to come this summer. So one of my sisters actually came at Christmas, so she came with her husband and the 2 kids. We had a wonderful time with them. But it's difficult, but technology makes things a little bit easier. We Skype a lot, FaceTime a lot. But it's still a long way away. It's about 3,500 miles that way. But I don't regret being here in any way, shape, or form. I love living in this country. I became a citizen. I'm very proud of that. It's a different lifestyle. And I enjoy it. And it's, I think my dad always asks me every time we talk, do you think you'll ever come home? And I always kind of awkwardly step around that question.
Right.
Because I have my own life here now, and I built a career here and families here. And, I don't ever want to say never, but I am very comfortable here and I like it here. So, and I think when family comes to visit, they see why. It's a lovely place to live here in Western New York. So, yeah.
What did your parents do for occupations, and are they still working? Or
both are retired. Dad was a crane driver in a metal foundry. So real interesting job, lifting up big old vats of molten metal and pouring it into casts. Very hardworking guy. Great soccer player in his time too. I should say that. Mom had a few jobs when I was growing up, so she worked in bingo hall. She worked at a grocery store, and then she went back to school and got qualifications to work with folks that have mental and physical disabilities, and she was just exceptional at that. She's just a great person for working with that population and supporting that population and just being a great advocate for that population. So it was interesting. They were always working. They were hardworking people. Always gave us what we needed, which was important, but definitely instilled that idea of, if you want something, you're gonna have to go out and work for it, and I appreciate that. It's certainly put me in good stead for everything I've done in my life. So I'm very appreciative of the way they taught us lessons as children and raised us. So, yeah.
Where did you meet your wife, and was that in England or?
So after high school, I would come and spend the summers here. There was a nice program called Camp America, where they basically would take cheap European staff and then bring us here and pay for our airline tickets and maybe throw a couple $100 our way at the end of the summer and feed us and house us. So I actually worked at a summer camp in the Catskills, so about an hour and a half outside of the city, and it is shamefully kind of like a bit of a dirty dancing kind of thing, so that on the lake there, so I did that for a couple of summers, really enjoyed it, thought that's exactly what American life was like. This camp was catered towards rather affluent Manhattanites and Long Island kids. So I just thought, oh, this is great. It was a really interesting experience as I was doing my teaching degree or going into my teaching degree. I loved doing sports. It was stuff I'd seen on TV growing up. I was like, this is ideal. So I spent my year going through school, and then it was, all right, school's done, straight over for the summer. And a few summers into doing it, my wife went and worked at the camp, and she's a Buffalo girl, so she came downstate for the summer and was very surprised how many non-American staff we had. She was like one of a handful. Summer romance turned into a permanent thing. So we were both going into our sophomore year of college. We made it work for 3 years, and it was difficult, but sometimes our breaks aligned, sometimes they didn't. So sometimes she'd be over, and I think that wasn't a terrible thing, because she'd come over while I was in school, then I'd get a break, then I'd come over here, and we kept some airlines in business for a while, paying for a lot of tickets. But we probably saw each other a lot more than some of her roommates saw their significant others, just because of that not lining up as a schedule. But yeah, 3 years, and the moment I turned in my dissertation at college, I went home, put everything in the bag, and the next morning flew out, and we got married that summer, actually.
So you went to college in the city in Manchester?
I went to college the next city over in a city called Liverpool.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then your dissertation, is that like a master's degree over there? Or
no, that was actually, they make you do that for finishing your bachelor's. So
Okay.
yeah, it was you finished with your last teacher placement, and then you had a dissertation to write during that time, something that was your focal point in your teaching expertise. So it's nice to turn that in, and then done. I missed graduation, but it was a good reason. I got married that day, so it was, can't be in two places at once, So I was okay sucking it up and missing that.
Sure.
It was a pretty big day in our lives. So yeah, it was it was fun to come over here. We lived in Virginia for a few years, and then Pennsylvania, and then got back up here to Western New York. I guess good old Western New York always pulls you home.
When you were, so Virginia, Pennsylvania, and then Western New York, did you play any sports when you were, obviously soccer probably? I don't mean to be obviously,
No. I played a little soccer. I was not a very good player. I'll be honest with you. I was not a good player. And I don't know if I was just a strange child, but I really enjoyed coaching from a very early age.
Okay.
My dad played semi-professionally, so Saturdays in our house was dad went to work, came home at lunchtime. We had lunch, got in the car, went and watched him play. And I was a ball boy. He was a goalkeeper, so I would sit behind his goal. I would stand behind his goal, run and get the ball, bring it back for him. And playing at that level, you saw some very talented soccer players. And whether it's an arrogant thought or not, we like to think we're the soccer capital of the world in Manchester. We're pretty well known for our soccer. So watching someone get to that level, and it being your dad, was really a neat thing to see him play at such a high level. And he was an excellent player. He really, really was, and had some trials with some professional teams. And I think, the idea of they got married early. They waited a little bit before they had me, but kind of real life kicked in, and I'm not sure he had that opportunity to really see if he could make it at the next level. And a lot of people speak very highly of him, and I explain that he was a very good goalkeeper, and I remind him I stood behind that goal for years, and I admired that about him. But I loved playing in school when I was younger, but I was always more interested in the analytical side of the game and the coaching side of the game, the biomechanics of the game, and just seeing my dad play, and he was around some excellent coaches. They kind of sucked me in a little bit too, and I found a lot of inspiration in like the way they would talk to guys and the way they would teach the game. And teaching is just something I've always been very passionate about, even from a very early age. So I think I just connected those. Loved playing when I played, but was very aware that when you're in a city like that, I mean, some of the guys I played or went to school with went on to play professionally, and it's like guys going to school with guys like going to the NFL here and consistently going to the NFL. It's a very different standard there than what it is here. So, and high school sports aren't as big in the UK as they are here in the US. I mean, there's just no comparison. My daughter played for the first year of varsity this year, and we're texting family about the results, and we're texting family when they went on their run this year in states. And my parents are like, you drove 3 hours for that? You were staying in a hotel for a high school game? I mean, this was mind blowing. And then my cousin's like, well, what is wrong with you? I'm like, this is what you do. You know, this is the passion of high school sports. When I'm done college sports, it's all even bigger, you know. So it's not as big of a deal in the UK from a representing your school standpoint. Unfortunately, if you play soccer and you're good, you tend to be pulled into an academy and you play for a professional team. And that's sad too, because I love the connection to the pride of being able to represent your school and playing with your friends and walking around the hallway with your jersey on and stuff like that. The drama that comes from all of that and the fun times that come from that. So I feel like it's something that we miss out on, but we're also painfully aware of because of TV, like how big it is here. And I think we're envious of that in many ways. I played rugby for about a week.
Many bruises?
My very, very good friend is called Big John, and he's called Big John for a reason. He's a big lad, and he still plays rugby now and then, even now. So he took me in to try it out. Loved it. It was great. And then, it was a couple of times. I mean, I admire football in our country. These guys don't wear helmets. They don't wear any padding. I wasn't shy, but I was also not quite the biggest guy. I was a bit of a toothpick. So it's like I was bouncing. I was like, this is not for me. It was fun. So it was a cool experience to say I did it. But you talk about complete and utter disregard for your personal safety. I mean, it really is very cool sport to watch. But I also think you do, no offense to rugby players, need to have a little screw loose to play that game.
No, I totally agree.
They're a different kind of animal.
They sure are.
And they're fun to be around. They play hard, they party hard, but it's a different mindset if you're a rugby player. It really is. Yeah.
I mean, going back to, watching your dad play, did he ever want you to be as good as he was? Or was he accepting and was like, I like my son behind the goal and just in support?
I think he liked me behind the goal because I would do all the running for him. But he was also kind of the guy that never forced us into anything. So
nice.
Sometimes, as a dad now, I reflect back on that and I think, would I have liked him to do that? Maybe. But it's not like the end of the world. I don't think I ever really expressed to him that it was the playing side of it was that important to me. And I know if I did, and sure he would have supported me in what I needed to do. I had some really close friends that were close friends with me, but also close with our family that had opportunities and trials to play at the professional level, and he kind of mentored them, which was really neat. I don't, have any issues with that at all because it just wasn't really my mindset to be, oh yeah, one day I want to be professional. I mean, we all want to play at some point, but I think maybe I was a little painfully aware of the fact I might have been good by American standards. I don't want to be rude, but where I didn't fit in with the quality. I mean, some of the kids I'm not joking. Some of the kids I went to school with went on to play semi-professionally, and you would look at those kids and be like, oh my gosh, they're incredible. Like, how do you get to the professional level?
Mm-hmm.
And we had a couple of guys we were lucky enough to have go through our school and our local programs that played for Manchester United, played for other big teams in the country, and you just knew it was interesting. You would know at 10, 11, you'd look at that guy and you're like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that kid, that's because everybody plays at home. So yeah, there's something a little different about that one. You know, they stand out. So maybe I was a little bit more aware than I ever give myself credit for. But no, he was very supportive. He's so supportive about my daughter's playing, my coaching. He's always on top of those sort of things. I get advice from him, still bounce ideas off him, and think I'm the better coach. He's the better player, but that's all right. I'll give up that title for him. But we still have the best conversations about the game. It's amazing how sports pull you into being connected like that with family and other people around the world.
So coming from that soccer-rich area which you grew up in, and your dad, did that high standard of play make a difference on your coaching style once you got into the States?
It was hard at first. I'll be very honest. My first teaching job, we were in Central Virginia. Football is king there. I worked with a girls team the first year, and then the second and third year we were there. I got a boys team, and I was a varsity coach at 24, which was fun. Certainly learned a lot at that point because, I'm literally 6 years older than the guys I'm supposed to be coaching. New to the country, new to the area, and connecting with those guys was an interesting experience on top of, the other simple things that come with coaching, being organized, connecting with parents, and being a disciplinarian when you need to be. It was a difficult transition because obviously at school you don't go off and recruit and bring in guys, and so I really like that Mike Heights guy. I'm going to go and chase him down and bring him into my team. You get what you get. And I was really fortunate in Virginia that football was a fall sport and soccer was a spring sport. And I had a good group of quality soccer players, but I had a good group of football players. And they would come in and they'd be hardworking, but they were a different type of soccer player. And I had to adjust very quickly to how to use them. It's like, okay, we'll still want you fundamentally to know how to receive a ball, pass a ball, shoot a ball. But it really challenged my mental approach of this is not home anymore. Okay, this is a new experience, but we were a very diverse group. I had some very talented, skilled players. And then I had a kid that was going to go and play in college as a linebacker. He's my goalkeeper. And I'm like, okay, you got great hands and you're not scared of going to hit a kid when you're coming out your box and things like that. So it was challenging and took a little bit of, realization, probably a bit longer than I would like to admit of, you've got to be flexible, but you've also got to be rigid. And it's like, where do you draw the line between what you value as a coach and what you want to express to your players in the way that you want them to play in their style, and what you kind of is your identity as a team. I've never been a big fan of the idea of, you hear coaches say, oh, you gotta work with the tools that you have. It's like, well, sometimes I'm a bit pig-headed and I know the way I want to play and I know the way I want my players to play. And sometimes I need my players to be a bit more flexible in the way that we do things and conform. I hate to use that word, but to the way that we know is going to be a successful way to build a program, build a team, a good season. But going into that, it's not really a hotbed of soccer talent in Central Virginia. Great kids, wonderful families, very connected to the schools, very, very, very similar actually to Hilton. It was really a fun challenge and probably pushed me more those years with my coaching skills, my coaching knowledge, and made me question things a lot. But it was a great learning experience and a whole lot of fun. It was a good time.
So 24, are you even married at that point? You're not married yet, are you?
Oh yeah, I was married. We were 23 and 22 when we got married. Everyone
Talk a
told
little bit
us we were a
about
little
your
crazy.
wife. Talk a little bit about your wife.
Emily is a doctor. She's a pediatrician. She has her own practice, Henrietta Pediatrics. We'll give them a little shout out. She's the hardest working person I have ever met. I don't know how she does what she does, and fits it into one day. Typically, or probably the easy answer is, when you sleep for 3 hours, that's probably where you can have a day where you get 21 hours, and she fills it, 21 hours of work. She is the most determined person I think I've ever met in my life. She loves to be challenged, and she loves to come out on top of the challenge.
Okay.
But yeah, she is the most humble person. It's probably killing her if she ever sees this. I told people she was a doctor. She'll say things like, if somebody asks her, I'm a physician. She avoids the D word.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, honey, you worked so hard to achieve that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I wouldn't be running around town telling everybody I'm a doctor, but I don't think it's a proud thing. I think she doesn't want to seem showy.
Right.
That very much comes from the way she was raised by her parents. But she's just this very inspirational person. I don't want to sound too mushy. I just I'm very proud of her standards and the way they're kind of rubbing off onto our children now, and in the way I see our kids leading their life. It's something to be very proud of. But a couple of years ago now, 3 years ago, she kind of hit a point in her career where it was, if I don't do this now, I'll never do it. So she took the big step of opening her own practice. And probably a really cool moment was a couple of weeks ago. Her grandmother just moved here from Florida, and she's not seen the practice until she moved here. So Emily and I took grandma over to see the practice, and just hearing like the shock in her voice and the way she was looking around. It's like, you made this? And my wife was doing her typical smiling. I'm like, yeah, she did all of this. She's an incredibly inspirational person to me. And to most people that spend time with her, she's just a fun but direct person to be around. She's a bit of an interesting character. She's not the life and soul of the party, but she's the person that you would sit down in the corner and have a great conversation with. And she's great like that too. And something I'm always very envious of her. She can hold a conversation and talk about anything with anyone. She's not necessarily going to be the one that starts the conversation, but she'd have a good chat with you and hold her own in any type of conversation. So yeah, I feel like I'm getting a little mushy. I'm super proud
to hear any husband talk about their wife. Yeah. I think is very meaningful.
It's not to sound goofy, but I think we both knew straight away that we were the right people for each other. And I think the 3 years of us being 3,500 miles away from each other really gave us evidence that this was going to work. And we're very, very proud of that. Knock on wood, everything stays like that. But she's just an inspiration to me personally. And I try to make her proud every day. I do.
Very nice. Very nice. And how is she on those nights where maybe you had a tough loss?
She has learned how to handle me. She is, she's smart. She'll follow along. So the girls will have it on the TV, and then see the final whistle, and they'll know what's going to happen. I like having the commute home.
Right.
The commute is like cathartic sometimes. So you have to put the music on, or sometimes I sit in complete silence and grind my teeth. Sometimes I probably shouldn't be driving because I'm like rocking out to how pumped up I am. But she's very good at giving me the space that I need and just support. What goes into coaching, the time and the effort. And I don't want it to sound like, I'm doing more than anybody else. I know people work very, very hard, but after a game, I honestly, Mike, I can't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I go home. I go down into the hot tub, and I get in the hot tub, and I have a TV out there, and I sit and watch video. Sometimes I'm looking, and I probably shouldn't say this on something that people would hear, but sometimes I look at the phone and it's 2:30, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably go and get a couple of hours sleep. It's just kind of the way I'm wired.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, to her credit, my wife doesn't guilt me on anything like that. She knows I walk in and it's hi, how's your day? A little, how are the kids at the day if they're in bed? And she gives me the look. She knows it's the, come on, off you go.
Right.
Go and do what you need to. And that's win, lose or draw. It's like that. It's like I get a little too hyped up, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to just turn it off. And she's very good about, I think there was in the past it was like, oh, you need to kind of tone that down a little bit, but she knows that's just the way it is, and that's how I am. And I would love to be able to go home and just jump into bed and just, all right, I'll deal with this in the morning, but it's already there, it's fresh in the mind. And the bloody Varsity media has it on YouTube in a minute, now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can't not go and press on huddle and
Mm-hmm.
look at things
Mm-hmm.
and check things out. So she's very supportive of that. And no matter what I need to do, what I need to do for the program, something like pops up, she's great. She drops everything and lets me do it. So I owe her a lot for that. She's very good about that. Yeah.
So you're saying it's good that you have that commute on the way home. Talk a little bit about where you live and your daughters.
So we're over in Pittsford, and I know that when I say that in Hilton, I get a few looks.
Yeah, you were like,
And,
oh, he's an East Sider, but that's
an East Side, but I'm West Side working is the best way to go. East Side
right.
living.
Oh, that's true.
So I remember actually, Joey Lapani was probably the one person who responded with the utmost disgust when we were moving, and he said something like, "Oh, where are you moving to, Mr. Ellicott?" I said, "We're going to Pittsburgh," and he just stared me down. And I absolutely love Joey. I'd known Joey. He was a senior at that point. I'd had him in 7th grade, and I'd known him for 5 years, and we had a great relationship. And of course, I know Rich and Deb, and it's like Joey just stared me down. I said, "What were you thinking?"
Yeah.
So I was like, "Whoa." So I know I've had to apologize a little bit for
Mhm.
being on that side of town.
Not at all.
So it's nice. We live over near Mendon Ponds out that way. It's a nice commute. It's 35, 40, probably should be 40 minutes, but I drive a little fast sometimes. So it's nice to have that commute just to kind of decompress. Even after a day at school, sometimes it's nice just to have that. And the roads are never busy when I'm on them, so it's not terrible. I have a sophomore, Lila, who's 15. She's a soccer player. She's at Mendon High School. She's working through her high school career and doing a great job. And I kind of smile through gritted teeth. She just was a part of the state championship team that
Congratulations.
won this past fall. So super excited for her. She had probably not quite the role that she wanted to have, but knew as a sophomore on an incredibly talented team. They were very, very good. It was great that she got minutes, but also a great exposure moving forward. And as a coach, I'm going, all right, sophomore year, you got on the team, you did have some playing time at points. And then all of a sudden, just this role started. And the next thing we know, we're in Portland and they're winning, and she comes off the field and asks me if I want to hold the medal because she knew that's the only thing I haven't won in high school realm. So she's very politely holding that in front of me and teasing me a little bit in her way because she's a sweetheart. But so excited for her, and to do that your first year on varsity, the kids that were on that team, the coaching staff, it was a really special group, and it was a really neat experience for them. And something now they've got a little target on the back, and people want to come and show them what it's like to take a little swing at the state champions. But really a nice thing for her to experience as a sophomore. And then Ruby is 10. She's in 5th grade. She She and Lila are a little different. Lila's kind of my more reserved, thoughtful, kind of laid back kid that kind of scans the room and takes in the room, and Ruby's the opposite. She's the one hanging from the ceiling and at the front of the room, kind of dictating. She's the president of her school. She tells everybody that, and she's proud of that. So we're proud of it too. We don't quite know where that came from. She's in a rock band. She actually plays like gigs.
What does she play?
She is a singer of a band. She goes to the School of Rock out in Victor, and they do a really nice job of putting kids together into groups. Recently, they played. I feel like this is awful for the health teacher to say, but they played a gig at the Iron Smoke Distillery and rocked it out there. She's a force to be reckoned with.
She's good.
Oh, she's got a. I'm dad, and I'm biased. One of my sisters is an actress. She's a huge singer. I can't carry a tune. I can pick up on a good voice, and again, I'm dad. She can bell out a tune.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud of her, and she's really bought into the idea of doing classes, learning about her voice as an instrument. She takes it very, very serious.
That's excellent.
It's fun. So it's like a weird thing for us. Lila's got a great voice too, but she's doesn't let anyone but the shower hear that. Occasionally I'm walking past the door and I'm like, come on, you should be belting out the tunes. But Ruby, she's all about being on the stage, front and center. So that's her thing. So, and she's comfortable with it, and that's interesting at age 10 to be that comfortable with it. We're kind of wondering,
it sure
where
is.
did that come from?
I don't know.
And for me, it's cute because I have like little flashbacks to my childhood, and our middle sister Sophie, she was that kind of kid. She was always, all three of them performed. They were dancers, but she went on to be an actress, do her acting degree, and is making a living out of it. So it's fun to watch her kind of reaction when she sees Ruby's videos, and it's like, oh wow, she sounds good. It's like, does she sound good? You start questioning a little bit then, but yeah, time's flying by. It's hard to think that she was born my second year in the district here at Hilton. So it's like, I don't know how she's done. It's crazy fella.
I like the names of your daughters, but Ruby Ellicott, that has a nice ring of
it's got a nice ring
of a
to
rocker,
it.
doesn't it?
Yeah. She plays up to the name. Sure.
Okay, so the district, when did you start in the Hilton Central School District, and what was your position at that time?
2012 was my first year. So this is going to be when we finished the 13th year in the district. So I was actually split between Merton and the high school. So I'd had like 0.6 of Merton Williams Health, 0.4 at high school Health. And I did that for a couple of years. And then my third year in the district, a full-time position at the high school opened up. A gentleman by the name of Brian Bartolo, who is a pain. I love him dearly, but he kind of convinced me to move away from the middle school because I had taught middle school at that point for about 11 years, and I felt very comfortable. And it was definitely a different, I mean, I don't tell a lot of people, but I'm elementary trained. So to go to middle school, it's like, oh, this is different. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, we want you to come to high school. So it was a really cool thing. And I loved that Bart felt like I could do that. And it gave me a great opportunity to experience that for best part of 12 years doing high school. But it was challenging. It was a different experience working with kids at that age. And I often thought, I'm elementary trained. I have a science background. I was teaching an anatomy class, which I was very passionate about that. So I had knowledge in that and I felt comfortable in that. But it was always kind of that element of doubt of, are you able to kind of perform at this level? I mean, we were talking about Dr. Galp a few minutes ago before we went on. And, I look at people like Doc and some of the other teachers at high school. They're super talented people, incredibly knowledgeable people. And across all of I don't want to sound like I'm bigging us up, but we have a great group of teachers at the high school. And it was intimidating. It was intimidating to go in and and know that, okay, I've got to live up to this a little bit, and the kids were challenging in a different way. It was more academic, and it was the questions they were asking and the things that they wanted to know. And I learned real soon, you can't BS high school. You smell it from a mile away, and sometimes you just have to, hey, I don't know, but I will know tomorrow, and we'll come back to that. But it was a fun experience. I missed the middle school. I ended up going back there this year. It was a great decision to go back. I had a wonderful time at high school. Ton of respect for Dr. Green, and a lot of the teachers that are there. We've had a big turnover at high school, as I'm sure you know. Some great young teachers coming in, and just some great. It's a really nice mix at the high school of young, talented teachers and some really good, I hate to say stalwart teachers, but good, experienced teachers that help guide the ship and take the enthusiasm of the younger folks to kind of help fuel that a little bit. But really a talented group of teachers, very talented group of teachers at the high school. Yeah, very, very proud to say that I worked with them. And I love seeing them. It's great bumping into them, games, and just coming out of high school now, seeing a few folks. It's nice, but I think for me personally, seventh graders are my people, and I feel comfortable with them. It's not that I didn't feel comfortable with the older kids, but it's just nice to go back to what really was my starting point in education 20 years ago now, 21 years ago.
21 years ago?
Yeah.
When you got hired at Hilton, did you immediately go right to a head varsity soccer coach?
No, I had 3 years with Mr. Sorensen, Coach Sorensen. So I worked on the girls' side for 3 years with Steve. Steve was great and welcomed me into Hilton and kind of getting me set up. Obviously, at that time, he was in the middle school as a teacher, so we worked together at the middle school. I was one of his modified coaches with Scott Moon, and then one of his assistant coaches on Varsity. Steve really kind of gave me the lay of the land, kind of got me comfortable with, the expectations of the district. I think a lot of people thought I had 6, 7 years of varsity coaching experience to then take a modified job. Some folks are like, what are you doing?
Step down.
I was like, it's not a step down, because Steve was really great about involving me with the varsity team. I think Steve saw the value that I brought to that, and I spent a lot of time with him and his girls. But it was easily the biggest school I had worked at, so that was also kind of challenging too, in that in Virginia I had a JV and a varsity team. That was my program, and then when I coached in Pennsylvania, I had a modified team and a varsity team. So now we're going to, JV, varsity, Mod A, Mod B at the time, and we were at the point of adding a third modified team. I was like, this is a big program. This is a big step up to have this many kids. And Steve really gave me a lot of opportunity to learn from him, a lot of opportunity to kind of run with some ideas. And I had 3 years of that role and being a modified coach. And then the boys varsity position came up, and it was kind of it was Ken Krause's son's senior year. They got all the way to the sectional final, and Ken was ready to finish with that group. He was very close to that group, which was understandable. And the job just came up, and a couple of people were prodding me to do it, and I'm like, okay, see if I can do it. And next thing I know, we're 10 years later. The time's just flown by.
So that first year you take over, what were some key principles you wanted to focus on in your program?
From early on, and I certainly don't mean this in any way like disrespectful to Ken and what he did. To get that program to a sectional final, to become a respected pro, he really started the ball rolling to what we picked up and carried on. It was a pretty clear ask from Mr. Jurizzi when I took over the program. It's a great program. You're going to love the program. You're going to working with the coaches, but you need to bring that program together. And that was kind of the remit going in of top to bottom. This has to be a more connected group. And that was, I'm smiling and nodding at Mike. I hate to say that. And that was my kind of basic principle of how to do things anyway. It's
Right.
like I need to be as connected with the modified kids as I am with the varsity boys. So going into that, it was definitely a challenge. I got incredibly lucky. The day after I got the job, a gentleman by the name of Brian Duffy called me, introduced himself. I think he emailed me first, and then we spoke, and then we met. And Brian, interviewed for the job, blew everybody away.
Mm-hmm.
And not surprised by that. He's just an incredible person. And just very simply said, I'm Hilton grad. He had some varsity experience coaching out in Kendall. We met days later, and it was, I know I didn't get the job, but I want to be involved in this. And it was a match made. I don't have a brother, but I think he's probably one of the closest things I have to a brother, because he's just somebody that I think gets me, gets how I do things. I get him and how he does things. And I think we have a very, very clear romance appreciation for each other, And it was kind of not sad, because I know some of the folks that were involved in our program earlier are still part of our district, and I'm very proud of. And I got to show you something. I had to bring something along. I'll show you in a moment of where our programs come from. I mean, we're celebrating our 75th year this year as a program.
Yeah.
It's a really neat thing. But Brian had great success as an athlete. He won a sectional title as a baseball player at Hilton. But, he's going to laugh when he hears this, but I hear him and I hear John Schwind, Brian and John are very, very close, talk about their memories of the soccer program, and it's stuff that they remember practice and cleaning up after practice and the orange bin that you would put equipment in. And I'm thinking, why on earth is that your memory of soccer,
Right.
And they have great teammates, and they have guys, coaches that they very highly respected. So I didn't want that to be like what my guys remember. I want them to make a connection with what we are as a program, finish their time in our program, hopefully with some awards in their pocket, but also know that they're a part of something. And that was, like I said, to kind of go back to what Mike put on me, Mr. Jurity, it's like, you need to pull this group together, and it became a program more than separate teams. And that was really the first job for us, was to get everybody connected. And that was kind of like the principle that year, was just to get everybody on the same page. Let's let these older guys know that they have a role to play with coaching the younger guys who want to visit their practices. Let's let guys have value in walking around with something on their shirt that says home soccer. I will say, in the 3 years I was coaching the girls, I know that it was interesting to watch like some of the boys' results. And I think probably our second year, Duff and I, an opposing coach came to us and said, "Oh, you're not the doormat anymore," and that was kind of the compliment that we really enjoyed hearing. It's like, yeah. And we both kind of looked at each other and like, we don't want to be the doormat.
Exactly.
No one takes any pride in being the doormat. No one wants to say, "Oh yeah, it was the easy win to go travel 45 minutes out the hill and just beat the heck out of somebody and come back." So it was really, put some pride back into putting on that shirt. I know there's been a lot of pride in the past, and again, I don't want to take away from anything that folks have done before our time in charge, but take some pride and really feel the passion with that pride as well. It's an important thing. Hopefully our guys feel that.
So you got something to show me?
Oh yeah, I know.
As you do that, it's ironic that you brought up John Schwind and Brian Duffy. When I first started in the district 26 years ago, a very fond colleague of mine, her all-time favorite two students were Brian Duffy and John Schwind. Really? And she said, you could do anything. You could pull something out for a concept, but they'd be like, yeah, and I want to learn that.
very rarely I get to spend time with the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
John will connect with our program and do some work with our program as we go through the season. But it's just the neatest thing to see the absolute like respect that they have for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And John, the success that he's had. I mean, the way he talks about Brian, he like talks about Brian like he, and I certainly don't want to take anything away from Brian's athletic abilities because he's an insane athlete. But John talks about him like this was like one of the best athletes I ever worked with,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and be like, hold on a second, you got to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Are you serious? You know, and it's the respect they have for each other. But I think that, not to be goofy, I heard you may like your history a little bit. I don't know.
Of course I do.
But Joe Borish, who is now I feel like I am promoting Pittsford a little bit.
It's all right.
He's a Pittsford Mendon coach from the 80s.
Okay.
I want to say 70s to 70s, 80s. I gotta get my numbers right with that. Guy that won over 20 sectional titles, several state titles, is not in the high school Hall of Fame, but the National Soccer Hall of Fame, right here from Rochester. A guy that people, if you know him and spend time with him, he's just an incredible person. I don't know why we connected. I think it was just the crazy run we went on our first year. He was one of those kind of head Section 5 people that would turn up for the playoff games, and we stood there in between the benches and enjoying it. We just hit it off. He's just an incredible person to learn from, and everybody where we live now that played for him, you know, it's what you hope when you retire. It's they say nothing but the best about him. And then there's a guy that revolutionized soccer in our area, did things before anybody else did. 20 plus sectional titles. I think he would 4 or 5 state titles, maybe more. I feel like I'm doing him a disservice. And to be in the National Hall of Fame, not the high school, but the National. It's crazy that we have someone that came from our area like that. So he is a retired teacher. He also came to me, I think, year 4, year 5, and he gave me this. He gave it me in a digital form, and he just said, "Here's your soccer history." And I'm like, "Joe, what do you mean?" And he said, "Here's your Hilton soccer history." So he, as far as I know, for every team in Section 5, drew up the history and passed it on to the head coaches at the time. Kind of passed this baton on of, you're going to keep it, you're going to keep adding to it. It was like something he gave back to Section 5. So I was like, I gotta show you. I thought you'd find this interesting. I was wondering if, I'll show you these pages first. Here's all the coaches that ever coached Hilton Boys Soccer, right? The years they coached, and not only that, their records. This is what Joe did. He from me all the way down to 75 years ago. You know, I'm sure there's a few names on there that you probably recognize.
For sure.
It was just the neatest thing to be given this. I felt very kind of humbling in a way. It's like, you've been keeping track of this? He's like, yeah, keeping track of this. And he took it and it was like, okay, I want you to now run with it. I want you to do your thing with it. I want you to look at all the coaches. I want you to make sure that you know what their records were. You know that the involvement they had with any titles that you guys received as a program. And it felt like this big, not to be like goofy, but a big responsibility to take this. It's like, okay, yeah, you know, this is something important. And just to, I don't know if that's kind of, I don't want to like age him or make him sound like he's older on his way out, but maybe it's his thing that he wants to leave everybody behind. Is that I started this. Yeah. It's a legacy. I want you to continue doing this. It's just a really cool thing, and I was really nervous at first about showing people, because the other part of the challenge was, you know, what do you want your name on this list to mean? You know, what's the goals for your time in charge? And I'm looking at this list, and there's There's names I don't know. There's names I obviously know. And I look at Bud Rose, who coached
I saw him the other night. He was at a girls' game. Yeah.
25 years in our district, the first Hilton coach to win a state title. I look at Bud's achievements and say, I don't want to be done before I beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And in all honesty, few times I've met Bud, the very first time, it was when we were going to states in 2015, and he told me, I want to go beat it. I want to go beat my record. Go take, very inspirational, mild-mannered person, but very inspirational in the way that he talks. It just became a really neat thing that I've now shared with our kids. It's like, this is something to be proud of. You got to be able to look back at where your program came from. And, we have a giggle at a couple of things, some of the records on there that are the best seasons and things like that. But it's really neat to see it down on a piece of paper. It's nice to go and see the trophies in the cabinet and things like that, but just to see the history and to know that somebody as awesome as Joe took the time to do this for the coaches in our section, it feels like a privilege really to take it over and to continue to keep adding to it and manipulating different things out and just being able to use it as kind of fuel for the boys to see, hey, and the kids got into it. It's like, oh, we had the best season, and what did it look like when they won in '87, and what was the record, and that sort of stuff. It's neat for them to have real evidence in front of them. Say, oh, this was the best year. This is what it looked like. Do you then set that as a challenge? You want to be able to go out and beat that. We were talking about girls basketball before we started the podcast, and I know the unbeaten word is a big word that's heavy on people's shoulders, but Dave and the girls, we're all doing this. We all want them to go and set that standard. Go beat that. You're invincible at that point. So it's a neat thing to see the history of our program, and I'm not a big historical buff, but for this, it felt very personal, and it was a cool thing to be able to take that baton and continue that legacy, hopefully, and everybody that takes it on after me keeps it going.
Well, I'm so glad that guy gave you Joe Bosch, is it? Joe Borsch,
yeah,
and that it's so easy for me to read, and I'm going to obviously focus in on 2015 to 2024, and I can read it, and I can read league champ, section 5 champ, regional and state finals, and I like it that Bud Rose, because he was coaching when I was going through school, and you're like, I like what you did. I want to get a little bit better. The way I read this here, you had 4 league titles in your tenure so far?
Yeah.
Okay. And back to back, it looks like in 2017 and 2018. And then during those 2 years, you had a Section 5 championship. What are some of the players that you had during those runs, if you remember?
So in 2015, we had a real fun group of seniors. So Jeff Hibbard, I know the Hibbards are a pretty well-known name in the area.
Yep.
A young man by the name of Simon Garneau, who convinced me to interview for the position. I was teaching him in our IB sports class at the time, and it was him and an outgoing senior who I was lucky enough to coach, Anthony DeFeo. Both kind of came to me and said, what do you think? Are you going to go for it? And I was like, I was humming and ahhing a little bit about it. And at that time, Simon was playing in the academy. And that's probably the worst side of our game, where he was very talented, playing at a very high level, but that was prohibited him from playing high school sports. He played in the academy. And they were kind of him and Brian Wilkins, who was our goalie, incredible goalkeeper. I had them all in class and picking away at me about going for this. And then there was a day where Simon kind of came up to me on his own and was, if you do it, I'll do it. And I was like, what do you mean? And it was, I'll consider not being in the academy next year and being back for my senior year, but you're going to do it too. It was kind of it was an interesting moment, and I give him a lot of credit for him being kind of ballsy enough to
Right.
come up and say
Sure.
because I had a lot of respect for him, and we had a great year together. And Brett Healy was on that team, Tyler Netman. That was a great senior class. We had some really talented younger guys too. Tommy Callery and Noah Malta were both freshmen that year, kind of role guys coming in off the bench. I had a couple of incredible sophomores in Evan Purney and Adam Weist. And then we had this very, very talented junior class, Nick Simone, Jesse Dupre, Matt DeFeo, Michael Lambert, Michael Provost. We had it was like and I mean this in the nicest possible way. It was like the land of the misfit toys.
Mm-hmm.
They were all so good,
Mm-hmm.
but collectively so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a horrendous experience sometimes in that season, as you can see from the record.
Well, yeah, the record is 11-9-1.
Yeah, that was after going to the state semifinals. So,
Mm-hmm.
so we rolled into, Middletown, and they're announcing it the night before ceremony. Is so and so from Section 1, and they're 19-0-0 and this, and then little old Hilton got announced, and it was kind of interesting. We actually didn't have a winning record until deep into the sectional run.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids, we just knew. Duff and I both knew it was like it's bonkers how the ingredients to this cake all taste so good, but when we mix them together, we just can't make it work. And the boys, to their credit, we might have been like I don't know. I'd have to ask them, but I felt like we tried so many different goofy things. I have this vivid memory of setting something on fire. I probably should admit this. On the away bleachers on LeBeau Field,
Mm-hmm.
over where
Yep.
the football away.
Sure do.
I think we wrote down on paper, for my old mind's there, regrets from the season going into the playoffs. We read them to each other, and then we put them in a bucket, and I set them on fire. And the boys are like staring at me like bonkers.
Right.
We did all sorts of weird and wonderful things, and they were just great kids. And we had the kids that had been on the sectional run the year before on Ken's team, were kind of bit part guys that felt like they had something to prove. We had some guys that had left the program, come back, like Brady Farrell. It was just a mishmash of guys, but all had something that they could contribute, but we just couldn't get it right. And then first round, we had like a playing game against a city school, and it was a nice confidence builder. We crushed that team on LeBeau. And then it was, okay, you're the 8th seed, you got to play Webster Schrader, who were phenomenal that year. We went to their place and got a fun 1-0 win. And probably one of my favorite memories in connection to football is it was a Friday night. We came back, and Mike Giaruzzi made the bus pull up at the entrance to LeBeau and marched us out. And he announced us right in the middle of the football game.
Sweet.
And I was not expecting to get the reaction that we got. It was a really neat thing. And I think that really hit the boys. They're like, okay, people value what we did with the 8th seed. We go to their place. They were incredible that year, Schrader. We beat them. And it's like, oh, we actually can do this. And the confidence just grew at that point. It was like playing with a different team. It was very strange. It was like we knew each other so well, but it was like, where's this been? Why are we turning this on now? Probably good that we turned it on at that point because we were on a nice run. But
one of my friends once said, he goes, sometimes it's not the best team, it's the team that's playing the best at the time.
Yeah.
What did you give credit to that, like that season? Was
I think at that point, we'd had a lot of sit-down chats with the lads and talked about, this is your legacy. A good number of the seniors, like Jeff Hibbard and Brian Wilkins and Brett Healy. Simon didn't play his junior year. They were on that team their junior year that lost 1-0 to, I think it was 1-0 or 2-1. They lost a very tight game to Fairport, and it was a rough loss. don't have to ask Ken too much about it. I mean, it was I remember watching that game. It was a rough loss, and a very difficult loss. They were in that game all the way through. And it's like, guys, this is how we're going to rebound. We kind of look like the team that had won the Super Bowl, and the next year we're kind of flying on the coattails of, oh, we won it last year. We didn't win it last year.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to go out in this fashion, knowing that you came so close. You've still got another swing at this. And I give a lot of credit that year to our senior lads because they really stepped up. Brian was absolutely incredible in goal. Simon, it was a big change for him going from the academy to high school soccer. It's a different style. It would frustrate him at times. I think he would admit that. He loved playing with his mates. He was very tight with the boys and missed playing with the boys. But I also know he had a very high standard and would sometimes have a hard time with when we would screw up and when we wouldn't do things the way that we should do them. He just turned it up a notch. I think he was our top goal scorer in the playoffs, if I remember rightly. And then probably what was, the defining moment of the run is we played a playing game, quarterfinal, semi-final, final, and we didn't concede a goal.
Mm-hmm.
We did not concede a goal until we played in the regional game against Williamsville. And that was a scary moment because you wonder then how we're going to respond.
Right.
But we didn't concede a goal. Brian played out of his mind. Our defenders were incredible. And the team, though, was a great transition. We were leaking goals left, right. I mean, Duff's a big defensive guy. I'm a big defensive guy. We're pulling our hair out with the way we were playing at that time. It's like we changed things. Not too much, but it was more of a mentality change. We didn't change anything in the way we played. It was just like, this is do or die time, put up or shut up, go home, and all those other lovely things that we like to say in sports. But it was a really neat thing to see him go on a 4-game run and just shut out. And we won 1-0 in the final, and we played Fairport. They got their revenge, and it was a great night. Wonderful night.
I want to go back to Simon Garneau, how he played at academy and then he played for the school.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between academy soccer and school ball that made him frustrated at times?
The quality is very different because really at the academy you're playing with the best players in the area.
Mm-hmm.
They train. I used to work at the club that Simon was at, so I know a lot of the ins and outs. They would train 5-6 times a week. Very high quality training. Best players around you, traveling all around the country. Best competition, best facilities, best resources. You paid for it too. It was certainly not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've got that continuity of even if you play an interesting, it's like not the most beautiful style of soccer, you get good at what you do because you're training 5 times a week and it's the same guys pushing. So I think we were trying to put our fingerprints and our footprint, if you will, on the program and how we wanted to play. And we saw we had some technical players and we could play a certain way. And it wasn't always done to the highest success, right? And Simon, who was coming off a few years of being in the academy where he was getting tens of thousands of touches a week, his body is conditioned to receive and do things just automatically. Not that he really was like nasty with anyone or anything like that, but I know it was a big change for him to see the quality level. You would see spits and spats of really nice things, and then you'd see silly things. And it was like, for him, I know that was frustrating. And It was about, he didn't want to let his friends down. I think he felt some pressure coming from the academy and being the academy guy that came home to come and play.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tough at first for him. I think he would admit that. I know we've spoken in the past about that. I've spoken to Bill and Marcy about that, like the difference and the change. But he was Mr. October for us. It's sectional start, and it just something clicked, and we had wonderful leadership with Jeff Hibbard and Brian Wilkins, and it was just really cool to see those guys step up and realize you came so close last year, you lost by a goal in the final. You want to go back and finish on a high point here.
Mm-hmm.
And that game was, it's weird. I don't have video of that game. I don't have a ton of pictures from that game. And I just remember that game being like the most painful game physically because you were just so tense. Like we had played Fairport earlier in the season, and they had beaten us at their place. And our guys were all fired up because they'd lost them in the sectional final. And they won on a cheap goal. When we played them in the season, it was a bit of a naughty play. Our guys were upset.
Naughty.
And it was, our guys just came out. Everybody felt the tension of that. And it was an interesting evening because it was a packed house at Spencerport. You just felt that this was a moment for them to take, as goofy as that might sound, but it's like, it's there for the taking. And we just played out of our mind. It was really cool experience to see the boys go through that. But yeah, to see the guys like Brett Healy, Brett was one of our captains too. See Brett and Brian and Jeffrey pick up that break. It was just like it was the coolest experience. Those guys all had a role to play in the year before, and they were able to go back and kind of avenge those demons a little bit. It was cool.
How did you approach the next season? You were pretty successful in 2016, so
yeah, we had a very talented group. Our seniors that year were arguably the most talented group as a grade that we've had across the players that we had in that group. We had a great season. We narrowly lost out to Fairport for first place in the area. And on a wet, windy Hilton night,
we've had those.
We had a weird night and just crashed out in the first round. And we, to this day, Jimmy Dupre, who works in the district, his son Jesse was on that team. Absolute incredible goalkeeper. Nick Simone was on ESPN top 10 that year for goals he scored. We had incredible talent in Michael Provost and Matthew DeFeo, and Michael Lamboff, and then we had these incredible role guys that were seniors, like Jono and who else am I thinking of? These guys were just great guys to be around and fun soccer players to work with and talented. And they led the way beautifully. We challenged throughout the whole year. We just had a really good, complete season. We had some results not go our way. Everything was very tight that year. I remember, when you lost by a goal. When you won by a goal. It was a fight. Everything was a battle. We just, I remember Fairport going to, right at the end of the season, we played them and lost at their place. Oh, no, excuse me, we tied at their place. And they got ranked, I think, the day before they got ranked #1 in the state. So we just tied Fairport. I think it was 3-3. We were leading till the last minute. It was a great rivalry that we had, and both teams pushed each other to be the best teams in the area. And I don't know if I don't know if Brian being more analytical would give you a better answer, but I think not that we ever really counted our chickens, but maybe we did count our chickens a little bit, and we were looking at this playoff bracket and we're going, can't wait to play Fairport again in the final. And then Webster Thomas came to town in the quarterfinals and we're done.
Right.
Just like that. And it was awful. It was awful because I think we all, not actively were talking about how we would, I think we all had our eyes on that final. The pathway to that Hilton Fairport final for the third year in a row is this bad blood between one-on-one with each other. I think we saw that and kind of lost sight of, oh crap, we had this team to take care of. And it was hard coming off a run like going to the state sectional final the year before, I was very concerned that year. I remember constantly kind of hitting the boys with, you can't be riding the fun of last year. You gotta follow it with a good punch here. And we knew, Duff and I both knew we had a very talented group, and I was like, this team could go back again. We were like in our mind, oh, like we can do this. But for credit to Thomas, they came in and played spoiler that night, and it was a tough night for our boys to end their careers. But great group of lads, very talented. A lot of them went on to college to play. So shame it didn't go another year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like the next couple of years, 29 wins and between 17 and 18 with 2 league championships and a sectional championship. Tell about those runs. Those must have been fun, but
the following year, so 2017, we got to the final, the sectional final. So
man,
it was a bit of a fun start. 3 years in, 2 finals. We got to the final with McQuaid. Great group of seniors that year too, led by Evan Perney and Adam Wiest, who were 2 sophomores on our sectional title team from 2015. Adam and Evan were insane leaders, and then they were seniors, and then our 2 junior leaders that year were Noah Malta and Tommy Callery. I think that year they saw how painful it was the previous year for that group to go out. They really wanted to prove a point, and we had a fun season. That was the first year, if memory serves right, that we won the divisional title. And it was interesting, Mike. That was a big thing for the boys. They wanted to. When was the last time we won the division? So
2005.
They were looking up on the banner, and like, how about that's step one? Let's go and win that thing and see what it feels like. And we won that at home against Fairport, of course. There was a nice rivalry brewing at that time. We won it in overtime, and it was just kids running on the field. It was a freaking Saturday afternoon game. You think no one was coming? A ton of people came. We won that game. Kids flooded the field. It was like, just won the division title. It's a great feeling, but it looked like it was a sectional title celebration.
Right.
But we had a really good run in sectionals. We got to the final, played against McQuaid. I think we kind of got embroiled into this idea of public versus private. I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of build up to that game that was friends of the kids, coaches I know from the area, people reaching out. It's like, you've got this. Everyone's got your back. And I remember going to Spencerport, and it was a bit of a hostile environment. It was interesting how we felt very clearly the support for us because we were the public school. We had played McQuaid. Nino was the coach of McQuaid at that time. We played McQuaid earlier in the season. Or maybe it was the season before. We played them very recently and got beat by them, and it was kind of an experience. So we knew going in, the McQuaid team was very, very talented. And it was kind of strange because Adam and Evan, who were our senior captains, played club soccer with a lot of those guys. And it was like, okay, we were close with their families, and it was like, okay, we know this is going to be a battle. And I think we were maybe all of 40 seconds into that final, and we conceded a goal.
Okay.
And it was the last things we're saying to these kids as they're going out on the field, like you've done, just get through the first few minutes, breathe, and it was a very loud. I remember the 2015 final being loud, but this was loud and people were going back and forth. I think it was Halloween, if I remember rightly. So that kind of added to all the craziness too. And we're not even a minute into the game, and all of a sudden we just let them go up the field and score. And now boys, I'm like, oh gosh, this could be a rough night. And to the boys' credit, they kind of steadied the ship. And at halftime, right before halftime, we got a PK, and Adam Wiest scored. It was 1-1 at halftime. And we grew into that game. The boys did a real nice job of adjusting. We were very proud of the way they dealt with it. They had blistering speed. These guys, they would play very direct and very much play the let's go, you versus me. I'm going to run you down. You know, and that did. And our guys, it's difficult. Maybe David Sturpey was on our team at that point, and Sturps was just lightning. And he really was into stepping up to David didn't back down from anyone. It's like, I don't care if you're more polished as a soccer player than I am. I'm going to run you down. But it was a great final back and forth. And then with several minutes left in the game, they scored on us. And at the time, we couldn't see very well the goal. And now, you know, it was a sad,
I think I remember
that goal because, you know, we left that field very proud of what we'd achieved that year. And McQuaid was an incredible team. They went on to win states that year. I just remember pulling into the high school the next morning, and Billy Andrecki was one of our coaches at the time. And he just sent a text and he said, "You're not going to want to see this, but you need to check it out." And it was video of the game-winning goal, and it was not a goal. You know, and anyone can argue with me. It's like the steps of what happened that led to the goal, the impediment of the goalkeeper, the offside position. It was the biggest punch to the stomach. It's like in listen, if Nino was right here, I'd still say it, but even in the grand scheme of the game, they were better than us. And certainly were better than us. And our guys knew that. But we threw some punches at them. And probably what was the worst part is, you know, they went on one stage and their athletic director was talking to Mike Teruzzi's not sure after that and saying, "Oh, I think you guys were the toughest team we played on." No, I think they won states, something like finals.
How did you get your kids to handle that when that goal was so controversial?
It happened so fast, and it was at the end of the game, and it was a very awkward position where we were, and we couldn't quite see it. And our guys, maybe to their credit, were too nice about things. I think I probably would have had a heart attack if I was on the field and had seen that. And the game just started back up very quickly, and it's not like we're going to go video review this sort of stuff. Nobody questioned it. And I don't want to take anything away from Quay. They were a very, very talented team. But it just was awful that was the deciding moment.
Right.
It was the deciding moment. And our kids, you know, they saw the video. They felt down about it. They were disappointed about it. But we left that field that night kind of proud of what we'd achieved. Obviously, we wanted to win a sectional title, but we knew we represented the school very well. I think what pulled everything together that night was this whole narrative of public versus private. And it's like, I remember we're warming up and there's another final on before us. And yeah, Hopkins, the Pittsford Sutherland coach, is coming off his final, and he looks at me and goes, you know, everybody's pulling for the public. I said, "Listen, thanks, but you know, it was a little bit more pressure than I was expecting it to be." It's like, this is interesting. Like people, you know, for right or for wrong or whatever your personal beliefs are on whether, you know, private schools should be involved in sports in our section, they're there. They're still kids, you know, they're still high school kids. But it really got hyped up in such a way that I think our boys were very proud of the efforts that they'd put into that game. And we had a great season, and just a great group of guys too. So yeah, very competitive. Sad they lost, but I don't know if acceptance is the right word, but they were able to walk off that field with their heads up instead of kind of throwing water bottles and kicking stuff and being upset. They were proud, which was a cool thing.
Well, they came back the next year and had one heck of a year the way I'm looking at things.
Yeah, I think that definitely fueled that fire a little bit going off that. And we had some very strong junior players that year with Justin Aralotta and Jack and Joey Gombardo, and of course Tommy Callery and Noah Malto. They were upset from like, I want to say February on, and it's like, when are we doing stuff? We need to start. Okay. They were so focused in on this isn't. I don't think I've ever been in games, Mike, where I've ever felt so confident
Mm-hmm.
that we were going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And I was almost like afraid to say it to Duff. And we were both, Duff and I kind of have a strange, like,
Sixth
it
sense.
is how you can read each other's mind a little bit. And it wasn't arrogance. I promise you it wasn't that. It was just the Gumbardo boys are easily two of the most competitive people I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
And if they say you're going to win, we're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Noah Malta had this incredible confidence about who he was and what he brought to the field. And Tommy Calorie was just like this very calming influence. And then when he needed to mix it up, he was just an absolute enforcer. And Justin Aralotta had his breakout year. All Greater Rochester Player of the Year that
Mm-hmm.
year. People kind of knew who Just was, and he just, now I'm going to really show you who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all very tight as a group. Charles Barker was in that group, Tyler and Christopher Aralotta, Justin's triplet brothers. Everyone really pushed each other to be a very, very difficult team. Nobody wanted to play us. I remember that year there was a lot of, grunting and disdain for who we were, because I don't want to sound arrogant. We played really, really nice soccer, and we played very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you get the skilled game, but not the effort, or the effort and not the skill.
Mm-hmm.
This was like the perfect match of the two. And we had guys like Charles Barker who were having breakout years and just wanted to be, as a senior, remembered for this. We had some talented younger players like Josh Rank. It was just a weird, I don't think I've ever felt so assured as a coach that we were going to win games. And they just pushed each other. It was a very easy year for us. From, you got to get the guys going.
Sure.
Sometimes we got into stuff that year from not to be like geeky, but from like a tactical and technical standpoint. Their drive allowed us to do that. It was like teaching an AP course.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything we threw at them, more,
Mm-hmm.
more. They wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
They were just hungry for a new challenge, and they went on a nice run. They did.
Yeah, it looks like. How was their sectional run? Do you remember those 4 games or 3 games?
Yeah, they were fun games. We had a nice draw in that we had been duking it out with Fairport over those early years. And that year, Fairport went out very early. They did what we did our second year. They went out early to rush. And we knew the rush team. We actually had a really fun semi-final game against one of the city schools, the Inventors. I'm blanking who's the Inventors.
Edison Tech,
Edison,
I think.
thank you. Against Edison. And Edison were like this, plucky little team with all of these, students that were born into the game, were used to playing soccer. Not the most collective group, but individually just flair of the Varsity. And our guys had a lot of respect for them. And I remember opening minutes of that game, we conceded. We went down goal. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. The Cinderella run's going to continue for this team. And then we just clicked and turned it up a notch or two and won in the semifinals. But then we faced Rush Henrietta in the final. And again, we had this weird habit of conceding an early goal.
Mm-hmm.
And we went down 1-0. And our guys they just didn't panic. I just remember Jack and Joey, they just telling the boys, we're not done.
Mm-hmm.
We came off halftime, it was 1-0. We dominated the heck out of them. Came off at halftime. I don't think, if I remember rightly, Duff and I really had to say much, which was rare. It's like the boys just bomb around the circle. We always let them have a minute to share their thoughts before we chime in. And it's like, yeah, let's just go. And we're time still on halftime, and they're on the field.
Mm-hmm.
We need to play now. This is a sectional final. And that was the night of Malta Magic. We had 2 Noah Malta goals that tied it and won it for us. And it was a magical evening, fun experience to see. Probably one of our tightest games. We'd lost a game or 2 that year, but we just were so close in the game. And it got to a point where it was getting late, and you're going, okay, probably going to want to score a goal
Right.
here. We're down a goal. And then Noah in several minutes had 2 just cracking goals that won it for us. And the boys, they never stopped kind of believing in the fact that, you know, they were the little kids that watched that 2015 team. They were freshmen that year. They wanted a taste of it, and only Tommy and Noel were the only guys on the team at that point. And it was like, oh no, we want a title. We want a title that we can see we earned, you know. So then we went to Buffalo and had a really unfortunate week of, not excuses, but you know just as well as I know, injuries. Josh Rank broke his nose and had to wear a master in the game, then couldn't play. Justin, who was just unplayable at that point. Everybody knew he was going to be AGR at that point. Injured his foot terribly in training that week. And we're like, okay, you know, and we just ran into a Clarence team that they were on the up, and we were picking up injuries. And we lost 1-0 to them. So it was a tough loss out there. We had, you know, memories of Hussein Ali bawling his eyes out, great kid, and just like kids that just loved to play with the guys that they were playing with. And not our first group of Hilton boys that were with us from modified up, but our first high school group. They were freshmen when we took over, and you just started to feel and sense the pride that they had in being part of the program, and it meant something to them, and that means so much as a coach when you can see that, feel that from you guys. So it was really neat to see them be the first high school crew that went through, and what it meant to them, and how they fought for each other. They were a great team, fun team to watch.
I could tell in your eyes. A couple of years after that, a little, well, I want to say dry, not too many big runs. And then 2021 comes along, and you go 19-2-1 on the season. League champ, Section 5 champ, regional champ, state finalists.
Yeah, it was weird.
Wow, that's a biggie. That's a lot.
It was a big year.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a group, they may have been, you know, you can never put like your teams up against each other, but they might be the crew that would give the 2018 crew a good run for their money. Right. They were gamers. They were arguably a bit more talented as a group, and not just because we got to the state final, but we had a crew of guys there that just saw what other folks had done in previous years and didn't want to do what they did. They wanted to do better. And they had like a real healthy, should we say, chip on their shoulder. They felt comfortable with what they were as players, but they also, I think that was our first crew that really we started using some of the history with. And it was like, what's your mark going to be? What do you want to leave behind? And I think we're coming off COVID and a weird experience with that, and a weird experience with that season the year before. In that it was like a modified season for what you could achieve, and nobody went to states. And my good friend at Penfield won that year, and I felt so bad because they were so good and probably would have won states. And a lot of our guys were friendly with those guys over at Penfield. But it was just again another crew that had this quiet confidence and the right amount of swagger.
I could see that they have a quiet confidence because they take it from you.
It's like you've got to believe in what you can do. It's like, it sounds like a goofy poster on a wall, but it's like if you go into the game knowing that you're better than someone. It's not an arrogance thing. It's just so many of these guys might play against each other all year long. And it used to drive me crazy when we play against a team. Yeah, Mike, he's like number 17 on my club team. I'm like, well, why is he beating crap out of us right now as he's playing for his school? He's taking more pride in what he's doing, clearly, because if he's not the better player, how is he dominating the game right now? And we had a lot of guys that were very well-trained soccer players, but also very aware of the other teams. I would say that was the crew that we didn't have to do as much homework on teams. They already knew. They were giving us the stuff that we needed. It was great, as opposed to have guys that played with other kids and that go to other schools, and they already knew the weaknesses and the tendencies, and we're putting stuff together on video. And then we had the emergence of Mr. Dodge, who was a junior that year, an incredible goalkeeper in Ben Kronk, this plucky little guy, Ian Smith, who was a great defender for us, and we had this next little crew of soccer players coming through. But that senior class with Anthony Inglesi and Alex Smith, Cody Cavuto, Ian Fadouk, Will Dupre, Ryan Christ, all of those guys were just Johnny Resnick. Johnny was another guy who had played in the academy and came back. He kind of idolized Simon a little bit, and it was like he wanted to do that. They played almost like they had missed out on something special in the past. And the 2 previous years, you see, we were not our best years, but they played like their life depended on it, and they were find a way to win. You know, whatever challenge was put in front of them, they found a way to beat that team.
When you went into that year, did you have a feeling like this is a sectional
we knew
champion?
That crew was going to be a special group. It's one of our biggest groups for a grade of guys that you know how we started modified, and by the time you get to senior year, you're like, okay, what was the drop off? Like, how many kids fell out of that? You know, we have some natural drop off. We have some kids that unfortunately don't progress like others. That was a group that we had very little soccer players from that grade not be senior varsity players. It was an interesting group to kind of follow, and they were also the first kind of guys that, it sounds like silly things, but at camp and at open sessions, were the guys that were like huddled in a corner, like, what are they doing? And they're all juggling with each other. They were a more technical breed of soccer player, and you're like, oh. And then you would talk to them like, oh, you watch the game, you understand the game. Like Alex Smith is just a soccer phenom, and he's a very talented player, but he knows the game so well, and would, not to be arrogant or rude, but that's not always the case when you talk to an American teenager who plays soccer. They don't. I've had lots of players, Mike, that love to play but couldn't name me 5 guys from the Premier League, and I'm going, I can name you 5 guys on every team in the Premier League, you know. And Alec was the same. So they were a little bit more cultured in the sport, skilled, and for some reason had just the right amount of a chip on the shoulder, and it was a nice mix. It really was.
Sounds like it. And then looks like you had another league championship in 2023, and overall in your tenure, 110 wins right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Not bad. The century mark's huge.
Yeah.
Do you plan on being around for that 200th?
Yeah.
In short,
I'm terrible with numbers, and I'm just thinking right in front of me, Bud Rose has 216 wins.
Okay.
So
you
I
know,
got 100 and a bit to go.
I like it that you were talking about some kids can't name premier players.
Right.
Your emblem there says Hilton Soccer, established in 1949, which is nice. And then the HVE. Tell our listeners and audience a little bit about what that stands for.
So that comes from Brian Duffy's days at the high school. I know it was kind of big with his class. It's Hilton versus everyone, kind of the siege mentality of, you know, I know that year, I think it was like Duff's senior year or Duff and John's junior year that they won sectionals in baseball, maybe also senior year. I'm blanking on his first name, Fowler. Andy was kind of like the hype guy for the student body, and
the general manager of all sports.
I mean, he was really kind of the drummer boy, got everybody going to the games and everything. And I believe that came either from Andy or somebody within that class. And Duff had just said it a couple of times. So I'm like, well, why aren't we using that? You know, we kind of be into the heads of the boys, you know, the Fortress and Fortress LeBeau. I don't ever want to disrespect our field and not use Dick LeBeau's name. It's like, if you want to go defend Fortress LeBeau, that's got to be a siege mentality that somebody drives all the way out to little old Hilton. And they're going to leave, you know, with a headache. That's what we want. We don't want anybody to leave LeBeau Field knowing that they've had it their way. And that was kind of our thing, the Fortress LeBeau, pushing. And then Duff kind of brought that up. And I'm like, we need to use that. And even a lot of the kids now at school, like, they have no idea what it is, but it sounds like a silly thing, but that's siege mentality. You got to get behind each other. I got to go to your games. You got to go to my games. I got to be screaming and getting you all riled up, and you got to be doing the same for me. And it's contagious when you get that going with the kids. And the boys, when they hear it, even our younger guys like that are new to the program, you know, we tell them what it means and we push that with them, and it's like, it's interesting. I'm like, yeah, that should be how you approach things, whether it's with us or whether you go and play basketball for Coach Prince or you're playing lacrosse or drag. There's nothing wrong with having the pride of saying it's us versus the world. I think so many people are pleasers and they don't want to let anybody down and they don't want to seem like they're being kind of divisive. It's not a divisive thing. It's we're pulling together to represent that. You know, that's the goal. Why shouldn't it be us versus everyone? We're respectful. We value Section 5. We're proud of being a Section 5 team. At the end of the day, we want to win. We want to be successful. We want to bring an award back. We want to put our numbers up on that, you know, those nice banners we've got there in the gym. Why not rally the troops? You know, and the kids get into that. It's fun. And I feel, not to get old and philosophical, but as the kids are changing and we're seeing transition with young people, I think it's sometimes they're a little too cool for that. And it's like, no, you don't get a choice with me. It's like, you're either in or you're out, because I'm in.
Right.
And you're going to make the decision whether you're in.
Right.
Because if you're not, you're out.
Right.
And it's not a personality. It's like, buy-in is buy-in. If you're not going to buy in, then we're not going to be successful. Simple.
Well, I can tell the way you've talked you in this podcast that you got a lot more winning to do yet. And I got one more question for you, and then a gift for you. What do you think your biggest lesson you've learned from your coaching journey?
I think probably the most important thing that is kind of as I get a little bit more reflective and a little bit older. I don't want to admit that I'm getting older. I want to be Peter Pan. You know, I don't want to age. We always say soccer is a very passionate sport, but you go to any sporting event, there's passion there. Everybody gets kind of riled up and into things, you hope. Sometimes I think in the past I've been very reactive in moments, enjoying a moment, flustered by a moment, angered by a moment. And I think there's a tendency sometimes that we get a little too emotional. And I think I've learned how to, and Duff would probably say I still need to learn a little bit more, because he is like Mr. Cool on the sideline. But I think I'm doing a much better job these days of channeling those emotions into something that's more productive than being obnoxious and loud and things like that. I get into it, and I value getting into it, and I don't think anyone should scream and shout for the heck of screaming and shouting. But if you can't get your troops rallied and you can't show them what it means to you, then how do you expect them to show you what it means to them? And that's something I've always valued as a part of coaching. It's like, we need to get people fired up. We need people fired up. We need people into it. So I feel like as I've got older, I've been a bit more reflective about take a breath. Okay, don't let that cloud your judgment. Don't let that change how you're going to respond. I feel like I am always respectful of referees. I probably give some referees a bit of a hard time, but you know what a coach doesn't. But I think as I've got a little bit more experience, I've become a little bit more disciplined in my emotional responses. And I think that's made me a better coach. And I do give Brian a lot of credit for that, because he is very calm, very level-headed. It's great when he gets fired up, because you know there's real reason
for him to get fired up.
And the boys love that too. But I think that's kind of our yin yang relationship that we have. We feed off each other very well, and I learn a lot from him, and hopefully he learns a couple of things from me from time to time. So, but yeah, I think that maturity, emotional maturity of knowing that if your player is looking over the sideline and you're absolutely losing your mind, the effect that that has on them. And then does that spur them on to lose their mind and do something reckless? I don't know if I'll ever be the cool cucumber on the side, just kind of taking it in and not showing emotion, but I've certainly learned to taper that a little bit.
Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed our time on the podcast, and I've learned a lot about you.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot of the underlying foundation from you, from your upbringing. Hilton Soccer's in really good hands, and my daughter has spoken very highly of you. I really appreciate you being on the podcast. You know, my budget being as it is, I can only offer you a Big H podcast.
I saw these on the microphone, and I love it. This is
that's for you. Now,
thank you.
Don't put that on your laptop, because it's goes against the rules.
I didn't get that message because I have a lot of things on my laptop. So I get in trouble.
But I
thank
do
you.
look.
This is amazing.
You know, you mentioned some guys there like Brian Duffy and John Schwind. I think those are guys that I want to also sit down and talk with.
Yeah.
And I've just really appreciated you getting to know you. This guy's a class act. He walked in my doorway with flowers and a card for my wife. That's class. And
thank you.
When you talked about taking over Hilton Soccer, and you never wanted to be disrespectful to people that had success before, you did bring that Brit element, that class, and that degree of standard to Hilton. I
appreciate that.
And I keep it going for years to come.
Thank you. It's you got to know where you come from, but know what you're involved in and where that's come from. And people put, you know, coaching is a lot of fun, but not always the most appreciated role in kids' lives. And it's, I look at the list of guys that coached before me, and I want to respect that. And I want our guys to know that too. So I appreciate you saying that.
You're welcome. You know our history. You're making history. Keep continuing it.
Thank you.
Mike Ellicott, thank you for joining me on the Big H podcast. And thank you for joining us. We'll be on future times. You can join me on X at Michael Heiss 17 or on Spotify and YouTube at the Big H podcast. And this has been Mike Heiss with the Big H podcast. Mike Ellicott. See you real soon.
The Big H podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find. The Big H podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow.